To the point, right?
How often do you have communion and how long does it take?
Depends. Several times a day. I didn't take them outside because humidity would have messed with the tuning quite a bit. But they keep the tune very well. Actually, had I had gut strings, it would have been a different story. Gut is a natural element; it takes in moisture and they get bigger, smaller. But with nylon strings, actually, most modern lute players use nylon. Even the fishing wire, it's actually a cheap alternative because it doesn't react with humidity. So that's my version of a kobzar. Some might say no, it's completely different, but that's okay because kobzari were different. But it's really not so important the type of instrument or the type of manner or a lot of other things which you could say, okay, we want authenticity, right? So to hear not just somebody kobzar like, right? You could say that, well, we want to hear what the kobzari were, but of course the main thing is truth, right? It's my intent to send a message, because if it's not going to be kobzar. Right?
For a non-Ukrainian, was that a spiritual song you said?
Yes. This is the most spiritual of the spiritual. The idea that, well, I explained, that about truth and lie, and things which, morality, right? There's other kanti, other hymns which were dealing with the saints, with Jesus and Maria. In fact, this next one I think will follow up with that. But these were Kantpa Pravda. There is a word about God, but interesting, not this bearded guy in the clouds. The idea of God, which is the truth. And some people say God is love, God is respect, God is doing good things, right? God is morality, basically. So yes, very spiritual. And we have a holiday today, right? A church holiday. And the kobzari were very religious folks. Or you might say not religious, because I think today that's not always such a good word. Very spiritual folks, right? You might compare a kobzar to a priest. A priest stays in the church, right? He has his parish. He takes care of his flock who live around him. The kobzari go to where they're not wanted, right? They go into the foreign territory where you can get killed or beaten or other things. But today's a holiday. We had an invitation to come to church. We had some problems, but it's not a big problem because I know that we'll have another time when we can actually sit down and quietly listen to students. Another kant. Today we celebrate the birth of Mary, the Mother of God. And this is a kant I used to sing in Catholic school. It's also an old world tune. It sounds something Baroqueish. It was actually, the original was in Latin. And just to present the next instrument, the torban, this is an excellent tune to present it. If it actually was in Baroque and Latin, then the torban, really a Ukrainian Baroque lute with added treble strings would be the perfect instrument to present those types of songs. So in celebration of Mary, 32. That's not like that.
How long does it take to do?
Not too fast, not too long, maybe 5 minutes, maybe faster. So you'll understand the word, this is in English, but one of we visited a Catholic school, I think we went to 5. I think we played for about 500 children. And so we didn't get a chance to play this one, but today I think it's time. Like this program is probably the second time. But it's actually a sing-along tune, right? You don't have to, or it's not, this isn't like some kind of, I don't know, I'm not trying to hypnotize you to being Christian or anything. But it actually was a sing-along. So I will sing, Hail Holy Queen enthroned above. And your part is, O Maria. Very simple. Let's try it. O Maria. And I'll sing. So. Then I'll sing again. And then I'll sing. Triumph all ye cherubim, sing with us ye seraphim. Heaven and earth resound the hymn. Then we all sing. Salve, salve, salve Regina. Well, you know this tune. Some people know it. Raise your hand if you know this. Oh, super. We'll sing louder so we can hear it. So excellent. Hail, Holy Queen, enthroned above. Oh, Maria. Hail, Mother of mercy and of love. Oh, Maria. Triumphally cherubim, sing with us, ye seraphim. Heaven and earth resound the hymn. Salve, 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 Regina. Our life, our sweetness here below. Oh, Maria. Our hope in sorrow and in woe. Oh, Maria. Triumphal ye cherubim, sing with us, ye seraphim. Heaven and earth resound the hymn. Salve, 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 Regina. And when our last breath leaves us, oh, Maria, show us thy Son, Christ Jesus. Oh, Maria, triumphally cherubim, sing with us, ye seraphim. Heaven and earth resound the hymn. Salve, 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 Regina. Salve, Regina, pueritum. Oh, Maria, sors unicate regenum. Oh, Maria, jubilate cherubim, exultate seraphim, consonate perpetuim. Salve, 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 Regina. Mater misericordiae. Oh, Maria, dulcis parens clementiae. Oh, Maria, jubilate cherubim, exultate seraphim, consonate perpetuim. Salve, 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 Regina. Salve, 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 Regina. And I know this may be kind of strange. What is this, like a Christian get-together or something? You know, we want to hear these like old pagan-looking instrument things. Well, the Kobs really were not pagans. They sang such kanti, Ukrainian versions. But today we have a lot of other folks, not just ethnic Ukrainians, people who have Ukrainian friends and wives who are interested in Ukraine, and so that everybody can take along. We sing these hymns. The Kobzar tradition was not just a Ukrainian thing, by the way. There's another tune sometimes we sing, actually, maybe a little bit later. It'll be a surprise, for everybody. So that's that. That's the torban. We'll talk about a little bit more about the instrument and play something else. But the third instrument, does anybody know what this is called? Has anybody ever seen one? It would have been actually called the bandura, but today we differentiate. There's another term.
Is it the kobza?
The kobza. And of course, Ukrainians would have heard about the kobzar, but they probably wouldn't have seen a kobzar because they're all killed in the 30s, right? Either by genocide or mass execution. We don't know exactly. And why would they kill these blind guys going on? Why? Because they were very serious folks. And today we say, ooh, the kobzariol, it's like some bomb, some guy singing some religious stuff. They weren't so powerful. But with my experience, I realized quite the opposite. There's some very serious stuff. In our belief, when you don't have a kobzar, it's hard to say what a kobzar is. When you don't have a kobza, could you have any idea how it sounds? Maybe it sounds like a big bandura. Maybe. But realistically, we found out that it did not. It sounds very different. And that's where it gets really cool, right? These really incredible instruments which Ukraine has. I see this in photos, right? But I realized that nobody knows what a kobza is. And then I find these guys making them in Kiev. I'm like, wow, that's for me. So basically, A kobza is really, you could call it a Ukrainian oud. Does anybody know what an oud is?
African instrument.
It's an Arabic instrument, or the closest Ukrainian, the Turkish variant is closest. It's basically it's a staved instrument. It's not carved out of one piece like this monoxal kobza, but the same amount of strings, similar tuning. Sounds very Arabic, right? Because Ukraine was traditionally very close, but the only difference is the kobza, we have these treble strings. And the treble strings probably were added maybe post 1700. Before it would have been really an oud, but they would play Ukrainian music on this oud, and that's why it's called a kobza. But the treble strings were added later on. First 1, 2, then maybe more. So for most Ukrainians who've never heard or seen the kobza, the question is, well, what does it actually sound like, right? We're very lucky to have, well, unfortunately, we have almost nothing for the kobza. But kobzas, we have one kobza in a museum, which has been remade into a bandura, so it's no longer a kobza. So to make an instrument, you have to make them for photos. And the question is, well, what do you play an instrument, right? There's no kobzari, they were killed. Actually, last kobza who played the kobza, he died in like 1885 or so. Let's stop that aside. But we're very lucky to have the last kobzar who played on the kobza, his repertoire. Note for note, we can play a lot of his repertoire, almost his complete repertoire. Interestingly, we also have the dances of Versailles. So listen to these dances. Think, does this sound like the Ukrainian dances that I know? Right? When you go to the Zabavas and they have dancers twirling and whirling, is this the kind of music? So think about that. Side, but the instrument could also be called a Ukrainian Renaissance lute. It's about the same size, but with the added treble strings. So how would that sound? So a completely different style, right? An instrument is very versatile. You can do lots of stuff. You can play like a bandura, you can play like an oud, you can play like a usli. So really interesting instrument. Does that sound like a modern bandura? No, and it wasn't supposed to. It was a different instrument. And then thinking about, well, what happened? Why did this instrument be turned into this big kind of piano thing where you have to actually pick out the notes and pick out the chromatic notes? I played the piano, but when it gets to the chromatics, I was like, that's not for me. It's a lot of work. But we could call it the process of modernization of bandura really pianification. And Stokoko actually, Andrei's teacher Stokoko says, you know, why are we losing all these cool, unique elements of our ethnic instruments and the manner of singing and playing the kobzari, just to turn it all into like this opera with piano accompaniment? You know, isn't that, or why would you take Gershwin and take it, what does he say? Try to play it on a saw or boat saw or something similar. Something, you know, just kind of some weird things. Oh, what's that?
By knocking, using it on the teeth.
So it's things which, you know, they make sense, okay, modernization. And I played at the Capella Bonaristiv. I love the form, don't get me wrong, I was weaned on it, right? And it will actually play some repertoire a little bit later. But very different, the traditional instruments, traditional performance is very different. And our conviction is, this is one of our themes, is that the modern culture, the modern Ukrainian culture we have, the dancing, the singing, the bandura playing, in the West, there's some incredibly wonderful things that are happening, developments. The Soviets weren't able to destroy these groups in the West, right? And we flourished really, and they're still flourishing. We saw just the other day, dance in the chorus group, Vitor, that's Boretsky. They were dancing and singing. It was incredible. I've never seen anything like it. But our conviction is that every dancer and every singer and every Ukrainian, if you know the traditional forms, it'll only enrich your understanding of what we can do in a modern culture. So it's not either this or that, it's this and that. And the things which we weren't allowed to know, to get to know folk dancing, right? How to sing together in a village style. They'll only bring us closer to our roots and make us really more Ukrainian. So what we'll do now is try some traditional dances. My friend Oleg, he is not trying to revive the Kobzar tradition, but he is doing in his own fields, basically traveling for the past 20 years, going to the villages throughout all of Ukraine, right, from Zakarpattia to Donetsk, asking those folks, you know any dances, and writing them down, learning to dance them, teaching them for 20 years. And he's going to basically give us a chance to try those who are interested. Not a lot, it's only, а скільки будемо танці?
Зараз я відчуваю, що ми вже трошки засиділися, тому ми встанемо, піднімемося нагору і трохи потанцюємо. Ну хоча б 2-3 танці, я буду бачити по вас. Коли ви втомитеся, я перший скажу, що ви втомилися.